Jim, what are you hearing on the Mets managerial search? Obviously, it's going to be a big thing here for David Stearns. What are you hearing about that?
Well, yeah, I think even David Stearns talked about it's going to be wide-ranging and broad, but the name that keeps popping up is Craig Counsell, of course, and that's because of the relationship that they've had over the years, the success that they've had over the years. And he's going to be a free agent at the end of this postseason, and they haven't done, and Milwaukee hasn't done anything to douse that flame that they're they're going to have a conversation. I spoke to Matt Arnold, their general manager, recently. They're going to have a conversation after the season's over there. So there'll be plenty of opportunity, though, for David Stearns to talk to some other people. I put together a way too early list. I like these lists ahead of time. We did this 2 years ago. We grabbed a couple other guys from the list from 2 years ago. We added a couple new ones. Carlos Beltran back on the list. We've heard his name before. Eduardo Perez was in the mix a couple times ago. I would have put him down on the list, but he's still in there. Joe McEwing has managerial aspirations. He was a part of the Mets in 1999 or around that time where David Stearns talked about his period of fandom. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. John Gibbons certainly has Mets ties being there. Got to keep an eye on is Bob Melvin, too. There hasn't been any decision made there with Melvin in San Diego, but he's going to have several opportunities, one up in San Francisco, but he does have New York ties, too. So, the first 8 guys I'm going to throw out there on the list. Maybe Andy can add 1 or 2 more, but those are the names that have been getting thrown around since yesterday.
Interesting. I was just thinking about this because I was giving Stern, a little flack for not naming a favorite Met from his 99 teams. Maybe he was thinking about Joe McEwing, but didn't want to say it because of the managerial stuff.
He's just about to hire him.
Yeah, who knows? Interesting. All right, Laura, why would Counsell want to leave a good situation in Milwaukee to come to New York and all that the pressure would bring being here?
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's a layup just because Counsell has so many ties there, including he has family members that work with the Brewers organization. But there are definitely reasons. Jim mentioned the biggest one, that relationship with David Stearns that he honed throughout the years. But in addition to that, the Mets can outbid anybody. So if this does become a bidding war, because a lot of people are interested in Craig Counsell, Steve Cohen could open up that wallet. And I think he's only making $3.5 million this year. So, that's probably going to go up.
That's what Counsell's making now?
That's what he's making now. And
isn't that a lot for a manager in these days?
It's funny. The manager scale keeps going down. They used to make $6-7 million.
Right.
Right. But Bruce Bochy makes $6 million, and I think he could probably make that amount of money. Also, the Brewers have some free agents, so they're not going to be bringing back the same team next year. Counsell definitely wants to win a World Series. Obviously, Steve Cohen wants to win a World Series. And that collaborative effort between Stearns, Counsell, and Cohen, I think, could really, really work. So there are reasons there. There's definitely something.
I agree with you that it's not a layup, and certainly the Mets don't think that. That's why we were talking about on the show yesterday, where it's if this has been somehow discussed like it's almost an inevitability, and it's far from it. It's a complex case where, for all the reasons that Laura already covered, and the timing. I mean, we don't know. Maybe with Brandon Woodruff out, maybe Counsell's available sooner than he would like to be available to talk to the Mets. But they could make a long October run. You can hire a manager in November, but the Mets don't want to hold up the process for that. And also, relationships are complex, and it's hard to assume that people want them to continue, too. When Joe Maddon left Tampa Bay, everyone thought, he's going to go to Andrew Friedman in L.A., and they like each other. They never had a falling out, but it's we've done that. John Lennon and Paul McCartney didn't want to keep writing songs together in the 70s. You never know. Just because people have worked together before successfully doesn't mean that they definitely want to keep doing it forever. So I think there's a lot of assumptions being made in the area of Counsell.
And Jim, would there be hurdles for the Mets actually hiring Counsell at this point, other than maybe waiting out a Brewers postseason run?
Well, I think there's some, points. I think Laura made the point there of his ties to Milwaukee. That's all he's known. He grew up there in the Milwaukee area. His dad worked for the club for a long time, over a period of time. So, there's that tie there originally. So I think that's one hurdle. I think, what is good in Milwaukee, which is really one of the smallest markets in the sport, may be 30th out of 30 right now. Going to the number 1 market, that doesn't have an appeal for everybody. So there may be some hurdles there. I do think, to Andy's point too, it's not a slam dunk there between the two of them, between Stearns and Counsell. But the one thing that would make a transition to New York easier is the familiarity with his boss, and there are changes going on there in Milwaukee. A couple of their top pitchers, and Burns and Woodruff in particular are going to be free agents, and they're going through a transition. What I like about him in New York is he fits that mode. They've been building from within in Milwaukee now for quite a bit of time. He has done a great job of bringing up young players, putting them in environments where they can succeed, maybe hitting them down in the lineup a little bit and instilling confidence in them while still, relying on them as well. And, he's had a good relationship with some of the veteran players like a Christian Yelich. He's handled the pitching, the bullpen. I think his expertise is handling bullpens, which I think was one of Buck's strengths as well. So, and let's not forget, too, the Mets, I know they were hiring a GM 2 years ago, but they didn't hire Buck until December 18th, I think the date was. So, I know he'd like to try to hire there sooner rather than later, but I don't think there's a huge rush there with a broader list that it looks like they're going to have.